Hi guys, it's Ben again here. Sorry for the delay in getting this next video up to you. I've just been on holiday and then it's been chaos at work. So sorry for getting this on a bit later than I intended to. So this week, I know last time I said that I was going to talk about uh, life as an inpatient, but I just felt it was more important to talk about self harm because I don't think this is understood enough, and there's a lot of it going on at the moment due to exam stress and pressure, social media pressure about body image and stuff, and people often think like the reason for self harm is to get attention. And I'm telling you now, there's easier things to do for attention than self harming. People you could throw a glass against the wall to get someone's attention. You could scream really loud and get someone's attention. So this stigma around people cutting themselves and self harming for attention is just a load of garbage, and it gets on my nerves because I just think like people who think like that are very naive, and it is down to lack of understanding. But you've also got to come to a point and have a deep think about it yourself and think, no, there's got to be something wrong with them mentally for them to want to hurt themselves. Nobody really wants to hurt themselves, and it's not a choice. Like I've said before, it's not a choice; it's a chore, and that's the biggest thing I can say to you. And keep that in mind at all times when you're caring for somebody who suffers from self harm or a mental health problem. Because then people feel lonely enough as it is. So when you start saying, "Oh, stop doing it," you're just doing it for attention. No, they're not doing it for attention, and I can think of hundred things that you can get attention for. So I'm going to be talking about self harm. So I'm going to talk about the reasons why people self harm, and the signs of it, because I want this video to be aimed at people like teachers, and carers as well, families, but mainly teachers, because I think a lot of it goes on in school. A lot of copycat behaviour, and people, kids do copycat behaviour, and it's not copycat behaviour, it's learnt behaviour, and people see the release and think, oh, actually that works for me, so I'm going to try it. So the reasons for self harm. So basically, I used to self harm because I felt so low and I couldn't get a release from it. And like, I can't explain it to you. It's like when you have a tattoo, and I know I'm one to talk because I've got a sleeve and I've got a few tattoos, but a tattoo, like when you have a tattoo, it's painful, but for me, I get a thrill from the pain, and it's like a sense of release. Like when I was so wound up, and I am so wound up, then I feel like I can't, I can't go out and have a breather, and I can't go out and have a fag because I don't smoke, and I can't like write my emotions and feelings down. I have to I have to inflict pain on myself to get my release out of me and get my stress and anger out of me. And that's why people do self harm. Is because it's just when you've got nowhere to turn, you won't you go to the last resort, which is pain. And when you inflict pain on yourself, it isn't nice to do, and nobody wants to hurt themselves. But when you've got nowhere else to go and nothing else, no other coping strategies, then you do turn to pain and self harm. Um, Another one is It's like self hatred. So I used to hate myself. I used to hate myself because it was my fault. I was in hospital. It was my fault. My mum and dad had to come and visit me every day. It was my fault that my friends were worried about me. It was my fault that um, I just felt like an inconvenience, basically. And that's when I got to a point where I was hanging myself. I was trying to take my own life because I just thought, you know what, like I'm useless, I'm worthless. I don't deserve to be around. I don't deserve to have a loving family. I don't deserve to have loving friends. And that's what people think. Like people I've met since setting up my own business and doing talks and stuff like that. They often say to me that, like I've got a student or a pupil or a kid who I'm looking after who has got the world and more. They've got rich parents, they've got a nice car, they've got this and this, all of these good things what they could have. But at the end of the day, them things are irrelevant if you are not happy. It's pointless being rich. If you're not happy, it's pointless having a fancy car if you're not happy. Them things don't make you happy. They contribute to making you happy, but they don't make you happy. And when you hate yourself, all of that is irrelevant because all you do is focus on how much of a nuisance and inconvenience you are. But I'm telling you now that just because you self harm doesn't mean that you are an inconvenience. Just because you've got a mental health problem doesn't mean you're an inconvenience. At the end of the day, your family love you for who you are, your friends love you for who you are, your work colleagues love you for who you are. They just want you to get better, and you need to speak to them as much as possible because at the end of the day, they're your social network and they're going to be around you 24/7. So when you're feeling like hurting yourself or harming yourself and you just feel low as anything, go and speak to them because they might not understand, and you might feel like, what's the point of talking to them because they don't understand. But at the end of the day, as long as you can speak about it and vent your frustration and your emotions, then that's the best thing to do, and that's the best advice I can give anybody who self-harms, because when all them emotions get built up inside you, that's the point where you do start thinking about, right, I need to cause pain to get that adrenaline and emotions out of me. But there's other ways that you can get that stress relief out of you, and I'll talk about that later. But self-hatred is one of the biggest ones, and it could be something little like body image. I hated my body image, and I thought I was fat, and that's why I went dieting, and that's why I got really poorly. And even when I was at death's door, I still hated my body, and that's why I used to hurt myself. And the reason I used to hurt myself as well is because I had a voice in my head telling me something that everybody else was telling me something different. I had a voice in my head telling me I was fat, but yet everybody around me was telling me I was really thin and I needed to put on weight, I needed to eat this and this. And when you've got two different things coming at you, when you're already a low weight, you're malnourished, your brain's not functioning properly, it just causes all this distress, and that's when you turn to self-harm. And before I got ill, I would have thought, there's not a chance I'd self. How do them people self-harm? How do they cut themselves? How do they punch walls? And I don't get how they do it. But that was the naive me. And until I've been through it, I understand why they do it now. It's like when you go to the gym and you get your anger out. That's a release, and that's a safe release. But something must, if you go to the gym to get your stress out, something must be stressing you out, and that's how people cope with it. It's all about coping strategies. Once you can develop some good coping strategies, then the self-harm will decrease, the behaviours will decrease. So yeah, like when you do get frustrated, speak. That's the best advice I can give anybody. Speak, and it don't matter who to. I don't care if you message me in the middle of the night on Facebook or YouTube and ask me, can I do this? Help me with this, please. Can you give me some advice on this? And I'll give you my advice any day, because I'm here and do these things because I want to help people going through what I've been through. So yeah. Another reason could be like a build up of like guilt or anger and hopelessness, like I've just explained. When people like I said then, like I used to feel really guilty for making my mum and dad come and visit me every day, and people will think, well, you're not making them because they want to come because you're the son. But when you're so low in mood and depressed, people, you do think like that naturally. You think that you're worthless, and nobody deserves to come and see you. You don't deserve anybody to come and see you. So it's intense feelings of guilt, really. And anger's the biggest one. Even people who don't suffer from self-harm, they do in some way have a form of self-harm, because I know people who punch walls who have never had like an actual diagnosed with self-harm or had medication for it or been treated for it, but that to me is a form of self-harm. And if you're hurting yourself to release your anger, then that is a form of self-harm. Another one's like low self-esteem. So that's kind of self-hatred as well. But people who are at school and think they're not clever and get called dumb by bullies, lads and girls who get bullied at school. People who don't have many friends. They all have so low self-esteem, and then they turn to something that makes them feel better. And like I've never been bullied, and I've never not had friends, but I know people who have, and then people who have had no friends or have been bullied have turned to self harm. Not every case, but a lot of the cases I know of, it's come from a bullying background. So that's how people cope with it. Because if you think about it, all you get day by day is stick from kids. And then you go home and you can't really tell your mum and dad because you don't want them to worry about you. Then how can you cope with it? So you can't. So that's when I turned to self harm, because I couldn't talk to anybody about my problems because I didn't think anybody understood. So yeah, and the biggest one for me is a cry for help. When I first went in hospital, I used to cut myself, and they were just superficial cuts. They weren't anything. They were just scratches, tiny scratches. But I did it because I wanted the nurses and support workers to make them aware that I felt like rubbish and I needed to talk. And people would say, well, that's attention seeking, but it is attention seeking, but there's a reason I'm doing it. And the reason is I need somebody to realise that I am struggling at the moment, and I need them to talk. I'm sick and tired of like people saying, oh, they've just done that for attention, and they've just done, that. Why they're doing that? They keep on doing it. It's putting staff's time, like taking staff's time away from other kids and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that person who's self-harm is in there for a reason. It's for the self-harm. And that staff, it shouldn't matter if it takes 12 hours, 24 hours, that staff needs to talk to that patient and get everything out of them so that they can start afresh, and just keep reassuring them that everything's okay. People often think like people do things to get things, and in a way they do, but people say that's selfish, but it's not selfish. I'll admit, like when I was in hospital, when I first started getting leave to go out of the hospital, I couldn't acknowledge praise, and I couldn't acknowledge people telling me how well I was doing. So I would cut myself or do something to stop them saying that and start becoming concerned about me again, because I thought, oh my God, like I've had this 24/7 care for ages, and now they're starting to let me go home and starting to let me do things. And you get so used, when you're you become institutionalised when you're in an inpatient unit and in care, because you've got 24/7 care day in, day out. When someone cares for you that much, you do become attached. So when that starts getting taken away from you, it's like the attachment starts being dragged out, and then some people can't cope with that, and I couldn't cope with that. I made really good bonds with them staff members. So when that started getting taken away, and I started being trusted with time at home and going out on my own out of the unit on Section 17 leave, them people, that's when I started to self-harm, because I thought, I can't acknowledge praise. Praise to me means I'm getting fat and getting better, and I didn't want to get better. And it sounds stupid that, because I got a home to go to, I've got a great family and friends to go home to, I've got everything that I could ask for, but yet I still wanted to hurt myself in order to stay in that unit. And it was because my mind was not functioning properly. Like when your brain isn't producing enough endorphins and your serotonin levels are low, your brain doesn't function properly, so you become depressed, and depressed, like you have no motivation to do anything, and your brain cannot think rationally, you just think irrationally. And people would say to me, like, that's mad, like I don't get that, but that is the logic of it, unfortunately. And people do cut themselves and do harm themselves so that they can stay in places, but that doesn't mean they're a bad person. That just means they're poorly. And that's the message I've got to get across to people, is they are poorly, they're in that inpatient unit for a reason. So they're not self-harming because they want attention. Yes, they want attention, but what do they want attention for? What's wrong with them? What are they trying to communicate to you that they can't say to you firsthand? That they have to self-harm first before they can communicate with you. And that's what kind of needs looking at. But especially students, like students might do it because they can't cope with the stress of their exams, and that's when I think more support from teachers and lecturers or whatever needs to be given to the students. Like the pastoral team needs to step in and say, is anybody struggling? And people might not come out and say I'm struggling because they're too scared to say that I'm not coping with this, but at the end of the day, at least you've asked and reassured them that there's somebody there to talk to if they need it. So that's like the main reasons for self-harm, and the main reasons I self-harmed, and that's just from my own experience. People different people who have suffered from self-harm might have different reasons for their self-harm. but they're the reasons for mine. But they're the key reasons. There's what I found familiar in the patients and kids I've spoken to, doing these talks and businesses and stuff. Like they're the key elements to self harm, for the reasons why they self harm. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna talk about the signs of self harm, because this is, if you can spot a self harm in the early stages, you can nip it in the bud and you can help them, get them the help. Even in the latter stages, as long as you can spot it, whatever stage they're at least then you can put something in place to help them. Teachers and lecturers and carers and support workers, doctors, nurses, we all have a duty of care. And if we spot something that doesn't look right, but then never report it, never do anything about it, at the end of the day, that person could go home that night and kill themselves. And then when you come in the next day, imagine how guilty you would feel for not telling anybody that what you saw the day before. If you'd have seen the cuts on their arms, for example, or if they'd have said to you, "I'm going to kill myself tonight," you've done nothing about it, then I don't really think you should be in that job, because you've got a duty of care. So signs of self-harm. So the obvious one is unexplained cuts and bruises, usually on the person's wrists, thighs, stomach, and arms. Now, the reasons why most people do it on the wrists, I think personally, it's a learned behaviour. A lot of people associate self-harm with cuts, slashing the wrists. So I personally think it's just because that's the in thing, but and that's all they've known. Like when they feel like self-harm, and then I know people who have gone on self-harm websites and looked up how to self-harm and stuff like that, and things do come up on Google. So that's where the ideas come from. But the thighs and stomach, to me, means they are severe self-harmers, because they don't want anybody to spot their cuts and their scars, because they don't want to be seen, and they don't want to get caught by a teacher and for help. They don't want the help, and that's why they hide it. You probably, obviously as a teacher, you won't see the thighs and stomach, but it'll be mainly their arms and legs. But at the end of the day, if you're in PE or whatever and you accidentally do see it, just make sure you report it, and you can get something in place, and maybe like the doctors or whatever. So another one's like unexplained bite marks on arms. Now, I used to be a keen biter, but I remember, like, even as a kid, I remember when you bite down on something, chomp on something, you do get a sense of relief, of stress. But I think when you bite yourself, it's a pain relief. Like when you bite down, it is painful, depending on how far you bite down. But when you've got unexplained bite marks, they are signs of self-harm. An obvious one for me, and this is what I used to do when I self-harmed, is I used to keep myself covered at all times. So I used to wear full-length pants, t-shirts, and that was because I didn't want anybody to see my cuts. And even in hot weather, the biggest one is when it's hot in the summer, like today, it's like 30 degrees. When you see somebody at school walking around, like maybe it's a school uniform, yeah, but if they're at home, walking around in a jumper and pants, there's something not right there, and you need to be questioning that and saying, like, why are you wearing that? And if they go, "Oh, I don't know," and then run to the bedroom, then obviously there is something the matter. You need to try and get that out of them, so you can get the help they need, like I keep on saying. So people self-harm as well as obviously from depression and low mood. So signs of that is tearfulness, or lack of motivation or interest to do anything. Cancelling all social events, and it's kind of spotting the abnormalities. If the kid or the person who's suffering normally goes out all the time with their friends and never and they're never in the bedroom, they're always out doing stuff, and then they suddenly just start isolating themselves in the bedroom, then obviously something is the matter, and that's a sign that you need, go up and say, right, what's the problem? And if they don't tell you, they don't tell you. But again, it's a reassurance to them that they can talk to you if they want to talk to you. But just if I just keep an eye on them, and if it becomes a problem where they're not coming out the bedrooms at all, that's when you need to start getting the doctors involved, because that's a key sign of depression, is when you totally isolate yourself. Um, so yeah, so another sign of self harm is a desire to end the life. Um, I've had this desire, like I said in the past. I've hung myself, I've bit a hole out of my arm to try and bleed to death. Everything I've done, it was in that time was because I didn't want to carry on with life. I thought I'm never going to get better. Things are never going to get better. People won't understand. I'm just fighting a lost battle. So what's the point of carrying on? And when people start thinking like that and talking like that, you need to be concerned, because they've lost all motivation to carry on. And you need to be that person who says, look, you can do it, and it is possible to get better. And it's even get them on the internet and type in people who've recovered from self harm or anorexia or depression, and show them that it is possible. When I go into units and see patient groups who are all there suffering from what I suffered from, the first thing I say to them is, look at me, that I'm proof that you can do it. And that's what these kind of people do need to see, because at the end of the day, when you're in that mind frame, you think that it's not possible. People who had recovered from anorexia used to come and talk to me to show me that I'm going to get better, but I never believed it. And I just think the best way with mental health is you have to be black and white. You have to tell them the truth and be blunt with them, basically. There's no point pussyfooting around them. I don't go in and say, right, you need to do this, you need to do that, and hopefully it will get better. No, you do what the doctors say and you will get better. Eat everything. Don't self-harm. Use your coping strategies and you will get better. And it's just laying it out in basic terms, because at the end of the day, your job is to get them better, and the quicker you make them learn that things can get better and give them the coping strategies, and make them aware that they can come and talk to you and stuff, that's when they are going to get better. So you need to be that key person in their recovery, and sometimes you do have to be the person. You do have to take the flak, basically. You will get grief. I used to give my mum and dad and friends grief all the time and say, you don't understand. But you know what? I always knew I could go to them if I needed to talk to them. And they might not understand, but it's just nice to get it off your chest. And that's the biggest thing I can advise people who are going through self-harm or mental illness to do, is to go to someone and talk to them. Because once you talk, it's you're getting things off your chest, and it's not getting all built up, and then you're not getting a concoction of built up emotions, and which you're then going to release by self-harming. It's a vicious circle, and unfortunately, once you're in that circle, it's hard to get out of. But I promise you, once you get out of it, life is so much better. And you will come out with scars, but you know what? For the sake of a few scars to having your life back, that's where you've got to weigh it up. What would you rather have? A load of scars and be not even that? Would you rather be really low in mood and just keep hurting yourself, or have scars and have your life back? I've spoken to so many people who are so scared to come out and say that they've self-harmed, and even young girls who should, and lads who should be going out on nights out and wearing t-shirts and dresses and stuff, they won't wear them because they're so scared of people judging them for the scars on their arms. At the end of the day, if you get judged for that, then the problem is with the judge. People who look at you and bully you for that, the bullies are just, a bully is somebody who's jealous of what you've got, and they might think, they might call you ugly or whatever, but at the end of the day, don't listen to them. They're obviously jealous about something, and a scar isn't ugly. A lot of people do bio oil and stuff, and I know a lot of people who have self-harmed who have now got tattoos. The reason I got tattoos was not because I've self-harmed. I'm not scared of showing people my scars, because I just think a scar is a sign of strength. A scar shows to people where you've come from, and you can say to people, I used to self-harm and look where I am now, and people will look up to you and think, well, if she can do it or he can do it, then I can do it. And that's the kind of feedback I've got. I saw a girl a few weeks ago who was crying her eyes out because somebody was bullying her for her scars on her arms, and I just said, turn around to the bully and say, you come and go through what I'm going through at the moment, and we'll see how big you are then. And you know what? I got a message that a few weeks later, and she'd said it to the person, and that person had never done it again, because nobody realises how much shit you go through, you know, like in an illness, in a mental health illness. You know, they don't realise the ins and outs. It's not as simple as just taking a tablet and things getting better. You know, if it was, then we'd have so many people who were recovered, but it's not. And that's what people don't understand. So if somebody bullies you for the scars on your arms, just kind of, I know it's hard to not take it as an insult or an offence, but just step back and think, you know what, the people who bully me for this, I don't need them in my life. So if they want to bully me, they can bully me, but that don't mean that I have to suffer because of what they're saying to me, and you shouldn't have to suffer. So that's really just about, that's just about self-harm, to be honest. Because I know a lot of people would try and ask, were asking me, like especially teachers really, what are the signs of self-harm and how can we spot it on students? And I'm going into a few schools and colleges in the next few months doing talks and giving this training, because I think that is the biggest place where it goes on. And I think if we can nip it in the bud whilst they're young and whilst they're going through this like stressful time, then we can help them through that stressful time and get them through their exams or whatever's causing them to stress out, and then we'll prevent them from it going too far. Because once it's gone too far, it's hard to pull it back. And you know, I was fortunate to pull it back. You know, I thought it had gone way past the point of recovery, but I was lucky enough for somebody up there to give me a second chance. So the next time I'm going to do a video, I'm going to do it on similar to this, but for anorexia, because anorexia is the key illness that I suffered from. But you know, a lot of people again associate anorexia with just being a low weight. It's not just being about a low weight. You know, the biggest part of the battle is in the head. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in the next video. Like I said in the past, if you've got any issues or anything you want to talk about or any questions you want to ask, then please just message me on Facebook or on YouTube. My name's Ben Robinson. You find me, I'm really not bothered if you message me. Whatever time you message me in the day, I'll try and help you out my best, and I'll take your views and points on board, and I can discuss any questions you've got for me. So have a good week, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.